It's time to add another pin to the fighting game developers of the world map. Talent digital artists based out of South Africa basically shadow dropped their new game, Super Dragon Punch Force 3, in late April. I was immediately drawn in by this game's vibrant art, its interesting character designs, and its completely self-aware sense of humor. Super Dragon Punch Force 3 is the sequel to two games that don't exist. The name is this ridiculous pastiche of fighting game titles, and the characters are absolutely over the top. Look, this dude has gun knuckles. Talent digital artists wears their influences proudly, and they are completely unabashed in their design choices. They've woven together aspects of comics, manga, and retro video games to create a style that is somehow both nostalgic and new. They're very clearly fans of fighting games as well. They've designed inventive twists on classic archetypes, from mecha characters to grapplers through these tricky weapons specialists. They even have a goth girl brawler.
That was awesome.
I think they know their audience. These characters aren't simply homages to popular fighting game characters though. They're reminiscent of some of them, sure, but you'd be hard-pressed to call any one of them clones or echo characters. As I'm marveling at some of these designs, like Boy, the Rekka character with gun knuckles, someone points out that the poster in the game's main menu also has a character with gun knuckles on it. Now, I had seen this poster for Boy Kills World and just figured that these indie devs simply were getting some extra ad revenue to go along with their free-to-play monetization. I mean, good for them, right? I also saw this relentless Twitter ad campaign for the movie that I had almost managed to ignore, but I'd seen enough of it to know that this movie was basically Millennial Battle Royale, or Millennial Hunger Games for you younger viewers, starring Bill Skarsgård. I had totally missed the Boy connection in this game though. I mean, is this a movie tie-in? All of the fighting game references in Super Dragon Punch Force 3 are fairly subtle, so this stuck out as a little bit on the nose for an homage. So I finally caved. I checked the trailer, only to see a Super Dragon Punch Force 2 arcade machine. Suddenly, the irreverent tone, the over-the-top characters, this kind of millennial nostalgia, it all matched, it all added up. How did I not realize I was playing a movie tie-in game? Initially, I wondered if this was even an effective ad campaign. Like, I had been playing this game for a whole week without realizing it was in part advertising a movie to me. But in fairness, it did make me check out this movie that I had been basically trying to ignore. And what's weird is that it's a movie that's kinda up my alley. I mean, like, I like this sense of humor, I love some wild action flicks, and this is produced by Sam Raimi, who I'm also a big fan of. Like, this would have been a hit if they pitched that to me instead of pitching Fortnite, the movie, starring a ripped Bill Skarsgård. So I want to say that this marketing campaign was a miss because I had no clue how many people I genuinely enjoy were working on it. Even John H. Benjamin, the voice of Archer, and Bob from Bob's Burgers, they're involved. This is all in spite of me being inundated with the Twitter ad campaign for the movie. But you know, here I am talking about it, and I'm still playing the game today. So maybe it was actually a super successful ad campaign? Like, they still got me in a roundabout way. I think that's one of the biggest things to note here. Super Dragon Punch Force 3 being a movie tie-in isn't a bad thing. Look, there's a long history of excellent tie-in and license games throughout the years. From things like DuckTales and Micro Machines, to Dragon Ball FighterZ for a more modern fighting game example. Talent Digital Artists has done a great job of incorporating someone else's IP into a unique world of their making. This sentiment and desire is confirmed by the company's CEO Tanya Britz and their creative director Judd Fitzjohn. In an interview with Game Rant, they said that they wanted to bridge the gap between two distinct IPs while still maintaining the creative freedom to create a unique world that could stand on its own, and one that they can build on. And I hope they do keep building, because the foundation they've laid so far is very promising. The game is admittedly a little bit rough around the edges, reflecting its early access or open beta status, but the characters and their toolkits, the core combat, is all very satisfying, even at this early stage. So let's get into how exactly Super Dragon Punch Force 3 plays. The first thing you might notice is that the game doesn't have any jumping or crouching. This works not only as an approachability feature, but it also works as a great design choice to help the mobile version of the game. There's been tremendous improvement in the game feel of mobile fighting games over the last 5 years or so. One of the reasons is that developers have been very judicious with their use of directional inputs and the overall button real estate in their games. Precision movement using a touch interface is hard to accomplish. So a common modern design trend is to limit mobility to left and right, and then to tie aerial mobility to various attacks. Often, and as is the case here, motion inputs are stripped out as well in order to remove some of that risk of missed inputs. Talent Digital Artists has been very careful to maintain the high-low dynamic of fighting games while still removing dedicated crouching and jumping buttons. So for example, characters can still hop over and slide under fireballs to give that sense of high-low. The button footprint with only 4 attack buttons might seem small at first glance, but many of these attacks are contextual, and every character has a passive ability that expands their toolkit and gives you more than enough options as a player to build out interesting game plans around them. So June, for example, has 2 movesets depending on whether she's armed or unarmed, and she has a passive buff that will let her inflict bleed damage. So you can go in for the mix or hang back and pester them while they bleed out. Or then there's Marlowe, who has a passive meter, which grants every 5th hit extra damage, and an install mode that powers up their moveset and then can be cashed out as a combo ender. So you get to build your combos around your empowered meter, and then use your install for long combos or a single giant attack. The combo system in Super Dragon Punch Force 3 is 1 part dial-a-combo and 1 part links. This is paired with a generous input buffer, making linking hits far more consistent, especially on mobile. You can extend your combos with wall bounces and ground bounces, but extended juggles give the opponent a chance to tech away. Super meter management is fairly simple, with a single bar that grants you access to a super attack, but the passive traits that each character has really makes up for the lack of a more complex meter system. In fact, the whole toolkit paradigm in Super Dragon Punch Force 3 reminds me a bit of hero shooters like Overwatch. You have very unique, vibrant characters that have about 4 special moves, maybe with slight variance, and then a bespoke character trait and some kind of ult. Even the game's presentation and modes reflect that style of live service game, which makes sense since Super Dragon Punch Force 3 is in fact a live service, free-to-play game. Right now in open beta, you have access to an unranked player versus player mode, practice mode, and then a ranked and casual player versus enemy mode. PvE consists of a 5 battle run against CPU controlled characters. So there's no story mode, there's no proper arcade mode or challenge mode, nothing like that. But what you do have is a mode that would emulate what it's like being online, hopping into a ranked queue or something like that. You just happen to be playing AI controlled characters. These PvE battles let you earn tickets, which you can then use to purchase characters in the game's store. Speaking of characters, 2 of them, Marlowe and Wally, are always unlocked, and then another 2 characters rotate on a regular basis. There are 8 characters in total that can be purchased with either tickets or using real-world currency. Right now though, there's only one way to earn tickets, the PvE mode, and it'll take you about 36 runs of this mode to get enough tickets to unlock a single character. Hopefully, future updates add more modes and different ways to earn this in-game currency, though you might not have much to spend those tickets on. All of the other cosmetics in the game, from profile pics to alternate colors for your characters, are only unlockable with real-world money. The ults and costumes are kinda nice though, so it might be worth a few dollars to get some new clothes for your favorite character. And it is encouraging that Talent Digital artists have launched with a fairly big selection of items. I just wish I could keep the free in free-to-play while still getting access to some of the cool cosmetics. But really, that's just kind of the way the world of free-to-play games works. You know, all told, this implementation isn't too bad. I can play a variety of characters and have access to all the game modes, and avoid having to deal with that funny money conversion. So once you've found your character and maybe picked a favorite color, you can also head online for some PvP. It's currently in alpha, so you can either enter a random queue or set up a private match using a lobby code. And this is where you really start to see the rough edges of Super Dragon Punch Force 3. The game itself holds up under stress for the most part. There are some issues with damage scaling of certain attacks and some consistency issues with the input reader, but these issues are exacerbated when playing online. Right now, the netcode is not tuned well for even relatively close connections. I do believe it's a rollback implementation based on how some of my matches went, but there is a distinct taste of input delay and stuttering in there as well. In fairness, the game is still in open beta, and the PvP mode is clearly marked as alpha. So this isn't a wholesale condemnation of the netcode, but it is a commentary on the current state of affairs. I'm really hopeful to see this quasi-licensed fighting game outlive its partner. My main concern when I discovered that I was actually playing a movie tie-in game wasn't, does this make the game bad? But it was, will this indie fighter be able to outlive its marketing partnership? Talent Digital Artists' creative team seems far more intent on building a world of their own than selling tickets to Boy Kills World, though they may have managed to do that as well. Right now, they have a great foundation to build upon in Super Dragon Punch Force 3. The team has managed to link 2 very distinct worlds and IPs and represent their partners' creations very well, while still maintaining an identity of their own. Cross-promotional, movie tie-in, and licensed games can feel a little bit exploitative at times. I mean, they're advert games. Their main goal is to sell you some other product. A company will choose to leverage a game, a studio, and their audience to sell more bottles of Sprite, some pizza, or tickets to a movie. So I love the fact that TDA has instead managed to leverage the promotional opportunity around a movie to create their very own fighting game universe that we now get to play in. Most impressively, this small indie studio managed to create a game that truly stands apart and even above a Sam Raimi film and its marketing budget, all by creating a genuinely compelling modern fighting game packed with delightful characters. The future is looking pretty bright for this real sequel to a fake franchise. You can go check out Super Dragon Punch Force 3 from Talent Digital Artists right now on Steam and on Google Play. Links are down below in the description. Let me know what y'all think about this game, what you think about movie tie-ins, licensed games, all that good stuff. Let me know down in the comments, let me know on the Discord, and I will see y'all in the bracket.